Fulham away in the second round of the Carabao Cup. It's always hard to preview these games because we have no kind of inkling what kind of lineup Fulham are going to play. We know that Spurs are going to make changes, but still, I think it's hard to know exactly who's going to play. So it is kind of difficult to preview these games, isn't it?
Yeah, it's hard to know how serious they're going to take it because we know Fulham have. Fulham at the moment, they've had a difficult start to the season. They've got a lot of problems at the moment with Marco Silva and Mitrovic leaving. They've had Paulinia's been approached by lots of different clubs, although he stayed loyal at the moment and haven't really found an offer. It's hard to know if they're going to come into this with their full team and have a really good go at the cup, or are they thinking now, look, there's no guarantees about anything with in the league this season. So, we just got to make sure that at the moment we're not getting ourselves embroiled in a relegation battle. And if that means sacrificing the cups, that means sacrificing the cups even at this early stage. I'm not sure where Fulham's heads are at, but not all is well at the moment with Fulham and the level of performance. Although, to be fair to them, they battled back with 10 men against Arsenal and did get that draw, so credit to them. But performance levels at the beginning of the season been that high so far, especially compared to last season where they had a very good start to the season, a very respectable top half finish as well. And I think Marco Silva is doing a good job, but maybe he feels like it's hard not to be frustrated if you're Marco Silva, isn't it? Because you spend a lot of time building this club and getting them to the Premier League and imprinting your style of play, and then out of nowhere your best striker gets poached and this player gets injured, that you're kind of you're limited in the transfer market to signing Raul replaceable for 5 million, and
it looks like they're getting that Beto in. Is that for Fulham?
That's for Everton.
Oh, Everton are getting Beto.
But like for Marco Silva, you want to progress, don't you? You want to keep moving forward, and it's just the situation's made that near impossible.
It seems like this happens to Marco Silva every time he joins a club, to be honest, and something's inevitably does go wrong after a positive start. But you're looking at the form of the teams coming into it. I mean, I haven't really been impressed at all with Fulham this season. I'm not going to lie. I know they fought back against Fulham, but on another day, Arsenal probably win that about 4-1 or 4-2. So I think when you assess Fulham the first 3 games of the season, I don't think there is too much to be impressed about, is there?
No, and the win they did get was Everton away, and they were extremely lucky in that game. Everton missed a whole host of chances. Leno had a brilliant game on the day, and they ended up getting a late winner at Goodison Park, and it was a thoroughly undeserved victory. The second game, they lost quite heavily to Brentford 3-0 at home after some terrible defending, and that was a really poor showing. And then against Arsenal, they kind of got away with it, as much as you got to give them credit for the character they showed to just stay in the game and not crumble, essentially, albeit you could argue the way they gave up the lead that they had, they did crumble a bit in those few minutes where they gave away the penalty stupidly, and obviously the goal from Nketiah, but they did stay in the game and they battled back in a hard-fought draw, so it shows there's still character left in this team for sure. But I'm just looking at the forward line, and I'm just, without Mitrovic, I don't know where the goals are coming from right now. Jimenez is been struggling for goals ever since that injury. Carlos Vinicius, I don't think he's a guy you can rely on for
written in the
goals.
Stars this week.
Yeah,
written in the stars tomorrow for Carlos.
I reckon he starts actually tomorrow. But anyway, is he a guy who you can rely on to get even 10 Premier League goals?
But you know who could be a real problem for us tomorrow is Adama Traore. You saw him come on in that Arsenal game and really cause Arsenal problems. Probably should have scored to go 3-2 up right at the end. With his pace and his power, with our high line, that could cause us problems.
Potentially. He likes to run. The good thing about Traore is he likes to run with the ball at his feet rather than in behind. And if he was more of an in-behind threat, I'd be a bit more worried than that threat. But look, Adama Traore is just one of those things. If he has a good day, there's just nothing you can do. He can just turn it on and all of a sudden be possible to play against. But at the end of the day, the reason he's at Fulham is because he's got no end product. So at the end of the day, if
he was at Barcelona.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. There's a reason he should, look, if he had an end product, he would still be at Barcelona. That's the reality. So the reason he got a free transfer to Fulham, no one was interested in him because he's just lacks that effectiveness in the final third. And I actually think he's got a good cross on him, but who's he crossing it to at the end of the day? it's tough to see who they're relying on to score goals. And I think the case in point for us is if we can keep it tight and make sure we're not making any mistakes or conceding any stupid goals, and especially making sure that we score the first goal. I envisage it being a tough day for Fulham, even if Spurs make many changes. I just think Fulham, I just struggle to see where their clinical edge is coming from, and they're going to need that if they're going to get the win, I feel, tomorrow.
Yeah, I just feel like we need to watch out massively for these players like Adama Traore and Carlos Vinicius. Sometimes football works itself in mysterious ways, and with the kind of, we were linked with Adama Traore for so long. He likes a goal against us. Vinicius obviously was on our books in that season under Jose Mourinho. So I always think like when these kind of when football brings up these kind of stories, it sometimes does throw it back in our faces, doesn't it? Especially as a Spurs fan.
Yeah, that always happens to Spurs. It seems to always bite us back somehow. Former players coming back to haunt us, and players who we should have signed ending up always having worldies against us. So look, and the Carabao Cup is important for me. We got to take the cup seriously. We're not in Europe this season. That surely adds further importance to the domestic cup competition. So I want to see us take it really seriously. Even though we got changes and stuff, I want to see a team out there ready to fight for the win. And we got to make sure that we don't allow circumstances to go against us. We maintain control of the game. Even though Fulham are a good team, I'm confident of going there and winning tomorrow. I feel like Fulham's heads are elsewhere right now. I don't think it's going to be focused on tomorrow's game or in the cups with the transfer window closing and Marco Silva not on the touchline as well. There's a lot of different circumstances, but look, we lost to a team whose manager was in prison once, so you can't exactly take anything for granted.
Yeah, definitely as a Spurs fan, you can't take anything for granted. But let's be honest, Craven Cottage is usually a happy hunting ground for us. I think we've won there our last 3 games. We've beaten Fulham 4 out of the last 5 games with 1 draw happening. But you cast your mind back to that 1-0 win last season in early January. I mean, that was our first away win in a long time, wasn't it? And I think, like, for some reason, we love going to Craven Cottage. We love getting results there. And I can remember so many times I've been there and we've absolutely wiped the floor or got edgy victories. I remember that one with Winks in the last minute, which was brilliant. And I think one with like Vlad Kirikez scoring a worldie in the last minute as well. For some reason, we get so many last minute goals there to take the 3 points. But in a cup game, I just love away games in the cup under the lights, especially when it's in London, so you don't have to travel so far. They've got
5,500 fans there.
Exactly. They've got a bit of a different edge to it, and with the good atmosphere you've seen coming from the Spurs away ends and even at home as well, you do envisage it's going to be a bit of a feisty atmosphere tomorrow night.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope there's a little bit of an edge to it. I think that would actually suit Tottenham the way we've started the season as well. It's a bit weird that we've started the season with so many away games. We've had 1 home game so far. This will be our 5th game of the season,
and we don't play at home till mid-September.
Yeah, which is really a strange way. Obviously, it'll mean we got some home games coming up, but it's
called character building.
Yeah, but I agree. I think it's a good thing in a way. The way that, because it means that we'll feel more comfortable at home, but we need to build that up. Because the last season away from home, many times we were just atrocious and we didn't seem up for the fight a lot of games, and that seems to completely flip this season under Postecoglou and the way the players are approaching these games. So look, 5,500 fans going to be there tomorrow, so the away end's going to be absolutely buzzing and loud and proud like they have been all season so far. So I'm buzzing to be there tomorrow. But look, Craven Cottage is no easy place to go. I do envisage a bit of a tight game, but I think like it's going to be one of those games that if we can take the lead in the first half, I think Spurs can take control, and I think the longer it stays at 0-0, it'll play into Fulham's hands. We just need to make sure that we're looking as sharp and as creative as we have been of the first few games of the season. If we do that, I think Fulham are going to struggle to really contain us.
Look, I think we got goals in us, obviously, with the way we play under Ange, but I want to see defensive solidity like we have seen in the last game, especially where we didn't give Bournemouth more or less any spare change throughout the game. And I want us to start with those 2 centre-backs that have given us a good base to build upon, and then kind of build the team around that. And I think if we can do that, then it'll be very hard for Fulham to try and get goals against us. I think their main threats will kind of be in behind, maybe the free kicks and set pieces by Andreas Pereira. They're really dangerous. But where do you see kind of Fulham hurting us?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, with most teams, considering how we play, I think on the wing is obviously going to be a source of joy for them if they can get a quick transition into those kind of areas. I actually see the midfield being something to watch out for, because I think João Palhinha is a phenomenal player. I think he's a player who could easily be playing in one of the top 6 teams in that centre of the midfield. I think he's a really good box-to-box player. He showed both sides to his game against Arsenal, I felt, in a really effective way. I think he's an absolute machine when it comes to tackles and interceptions and the amount he gets involved. So I think if we allow him, if we're not up to the task aggressively in the centre of the park, he can end up controlling that midfield, and you've got to be careful of that. I think Andreas Pereira, playing in that little number 10 role, on his day, he can be a very good player, and he can create chances, and he's got a good shot from outside the box as well. So I think he would. I would say, like, tactically, their best player, the best option would be through the wide areas, but I don't rate their wide players right now. I'm looking at who they played on the weekend. D. Cordova-Reid and Wilson started the game. Obviously, they got Willian and Traore in the squad as well, but I think we would have more than enough to contain D. Cordova-Reid and Wilson with our fullbacks, even if we do change the fullbacks.
I'm more worried if Traore and Willian play on the wings.
What I'm worried about, I'll tell you what I'm worried about. If we play Ben Davis and then they put Traore on the wing, that's a situation to be a bit concerned about, because I can see him taking Davis to the cleaners, and it'll be whether he can then create the chances once he's beaten Davis. I think he'll find it easy work. If we have Udogie there, I'm a bit less worried. But I think Ben Davis on the left, get up against Traore, would be a bit of a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, I get that. But, if Van de Ven does play, I think he can also counteract what Adama Traore can bring. I think you'll be going. I know, obviously, Adama Traore is just sheer pace and power. But I think Van de Ven, the qualities that he does have, can counteract that.
Yeah, yes, but if Davis is there, like, I think Udogie's got enough pace where Van de Ven wouldn't have to cover as much ground to get over to protect him. Whereas I think Van de Ven would have to be doing a lot of work to support Ben Davis.
You know what I wouldn't mind in this game if Van de Ven plays left back and you bring in Davinson Sanchez at left centre back. I wouldn't mind that at all, to be honest.
Something to consider. The only reason I wouldn't do it is because it looks like we're trying to get rid of Sanchez and it's very close to the window. So do you want to put a move in jeopardy or anything like that? And is his head right as well right now, considering he could be on the verge of a move? So
I mean, look, he's been rumoured to move all summer, and every time he stepped in, he's looked really good. Yeah,
but he's been trying to earn a move, but now it's getting to the last week, so he could literally move today. You know what I mean? We don't really know, so we'll have to wait and see. But I think Davis will come in, just because I think we need a few changes. But I'm worried about that situation. But if Wilson starts, I am a bit more comfortable with that situation on the wing. So I think tactically, Fulham's best route is obviously out wide. But I think in quality-wise, where they best players are is probably central midfield with Pereira and Paulinho, I'd say.
Yeah, and I think, like, in terms of our midfield, which we're going to look at, he's already confirmed that Giovanni Lo Celso is going to play in this game. So he's going to be that creative spark for us instead of probably James Maddison. Do you think the other holding players, you assume probably Højbjerg and Skip, as opposed to maybe Bissouma and Sarr, do you think that's enough for us in midfield?
I would like one of Bissouma and Sarr, to be honest, to be starting this game. I think he will change it completely just to get the fresh legs, and you saw how leggy Bissouma and Sarr both were against Bournemouth in that second half. So I do envisage a completely changed up midfield three. But quality-wise, I would like to see one of Bissouma and Sarr, just because I feel like Højbjerg and Skip, is there enough ability to carry the ball forward like we see with Højbjerg, with Bissouma and Sarr, with their ability to drive the ball forward on the ball and beat players, and have that ability to build up the play and not just looking for progressive passes, but also when they do spot the space, being able to drive into it. I've got question marks about Højbjerg and Skip's ability to do that, and I have no doubt off the ball that they're competent enough in this kind of game to be able to shut out what Fulham are offering and contain them. But I'm a bit worried about when they're coming up against João Palhinha, if he does start, that is. If he come up against even him by himself, he is such a formidable opponent that, like, it would take a very good player like a Bissouma to be able to beat him on a consistent basis. And do I back someone Højbjerg and Skip to be able to get past him consistently enough to open up the space and to end up being more creative. We have to wait and see. I've got my question marks about that. I don't know. I reckon it's going to be the case that in the second half we're going to have to bring on one of them.
Yeah, I mean, I hope not, because you're looking at Giovanni Lo Celso and the way he performed in pre-season. I mean, he was brilliant. He really was at his creative best, the best we've seen him in a long time in a Spurs shirt. And if he can kind of bring that form into this game, then I don't think we should have too much to worry about. Obviously, it is a good midfield we're going up against, but our ambition should be much higher than that. And I think Højbjerg has shown in the Premier League before how, he can unlock a defence, he can play progressive passes, and he can be tight in the middle of the park as well. The one I'm worried about is Skip, to be honest, out of the three.
No, I'm not worried about Lo Celso. I'm not worried about any of them as individually. I'm a bit worried about them as a collective, because I just feel like how against Bournemouth, went through the stats, we completed 14 dribbles throughout the game, yeah, and we had Udogie, Basuma, Sarr, all having that freedom to pick the ball up and drive. They see the space, but they didn't just do that because they have the freedom. They did that because they have the quality to do that as well, because of how good they are on the ball. I've no doubt Lo Celso has that ability, but I'm looking at Højbjerg and I'm looking at Skip and I'm looking at Davis as well. I'm like, okay, you're going to have the freedom to do it, but are you going to be good enough to do it? Are you going to be good enough to take on a João Paulinho and beat him and open up the space and then drive at the Fulham backline and open up the space? Are you going to be good enough to do that? Because we're going to need to do that to open up the spaces for Lo Celso, open up the spaces for the front three. And I'm sure there will be occasions where they do it, but against Fulham, against Bournemouth, we were doing it consistently throughout the game, which was allowing us to consistently create chances. And I've got a feeling like how I predict this game is we might be able to do it. Those players are going to be able to do it maybe once or twice during the game, and then if we don't score in those moments, I feel like we might struggle throughout that first half to create consistent chances, and we might have to pick our moments. But then in the second half, if we can bring on a Basuma and a Sarr, maybe even against tired legs, and then they can do their thing in the second half, I see us having a lot more joy once they come on. So I think it will just be a case of Højbjerg, Skip, tiring out the opposition without getting too much success in creating chances, and then once they're tired out, you bring on a Sarr and Basuma, and who can do their thing even against fresh legs. So imagine them against tired legs, how hard they're going to be to stop, and then I can see us really taking them to the sword a bit. Yeah,
I completely understand where you're coming from, but I do kind of feel like even with the players that you're talking about, Højbjerg, Skip and Lo Celso, as well as Ben Davis coming from the left and probably Emerson Royale coming from the right, I do feel like if we kind of can overload them in the midfield areas where João Paulinho is, we can find the joy and get past, maybe not as much as we did do against Bournemouth, definitely enough to go and win that game for sure. So it's going to be an interesting battle up at Craven Cottage, a ground that we do have quite a lot of success at. What is your score prediction going into it?
Yeah, I think my score prediction, I would say I'm going to go for 2-0 Spurs. I reckon
2 late goals.
Yeah. Either 2 late goals or one goal in the first half, and we'll clinch it in the second half. I think we'll be able to contain them. I do. I think we'll be able to limit Fulham to half chances, and it's whether they can take some of those chances or not. I guess a lot of my thinking is dependent on if Adama starts on the right against Davis or not. I think
he will.
That could be a big matchup, and if he does start, I can see him causing him a lot of trouble. Not to necessarily say he's definitely going to assist a goal or something, but I can definitely see him giving Davis a real tough ride on that right-hand side. If he does start, I would probably say 2-1 Spurs. If Adama's only coming off the bench, I'm going to go for 2-0 Spurs, and I think we should be able to contain Fulham, and I think we should have enough quality going forward, even without some of our starters, to put the ball in the back of the net a couple of times.
3 2-0s in a row.
3 2-0s in a row.
I'm going to go for 2-1 1 to Spurs. I think it's going to be a bit of a it'll have a cup feeling to it tomorrow night, and I think both teams are going to be up for it. I think Spurs do edge it on the quality, and I think Sonny will probably be playing down the middle, and I think he's probably going to get his first goal or maybe 2 of the season. And look, I feel like if we start with the options that we said, and like you say, bringing on that quality in the latter stage of the game to really see us through the game, I think we'll be going into the next round of the cup. I'm not sure when the draw is. I imagine it's going to be Wednesday night or something. But I'm really looking forward to this one, not going to lie. So me and Sim both going to be down there at Craven Cottage tomorrow with our very own Brian Daigle as well. So watch out for all the footage coming from Craven Cottage tomorrow. I'm going 2-1 to Spurs. Sim's going 2-0 to Spurs.